Aji Deshte National Press Day Maniade Dimapur Press Club pe observe kurishe media in the era of artificial intelligence laga team loina. Guest speaker Sashi Wabang, Additional Commissioner Central Goods and Service Tax Dimapur bra gushe nijor state laga revenue do 12% hi ase gushe aro 88% do central government ke depend gure gushe.
When it comes to our local media, compared to political news, compared to social news, compared to entertainment news, economic news, things to do with analysis of business, economy, taxation, finances, this is an area which doesn't get as much coverage as the others. You will agree with me, right? For a state that depends hugely on central funding, I think we need more public discourse on the state in which our economy is running. I'll just present a few numbers. Please don't shut yourself, because many times when it comes to numbers, we just do this, okay? But this is with a point. I'll keep coming back to this number. Out of the money that the government is spending every year, only 12% is coming from money which is earned in Nagaland itself. So in budgetary terms, our own revenue, state's own revenue is 12%, which means 88% we're always dependent on Delhi, right? We're always dependent on central funding to do our everyday work. So then, our economic freedom, our ability to do the things that we want to do is greatly dependent on if we can increase this a little bit more. Our flexibility to do things is restricted. Why? Because out of our budget also, if you see, 2/3 of the budget goes to salaries of government servants and pension. So 66% of what we are spending is a fixed thing already. So with the remaining, we get to do what we want to do. So when we increase the size of the cake exponentially across the board, other things also will increase, right? And when it comes to central funding, one thing is that many times it's a 90-10. In the sense, center says we put in 90%, you put in 10%. But when our own bowl is so less, many times we miss out on a lot of central funding because we cannot even put that 10%. So you can imagine what I mean to say when exponential growth will be there, because even as we increase our own bowl, the ability to access more also rises, right? Even this bowl is divided into two parts, our state revenue. I'm not going to use technical terms, but basically the 12% that we are gathering comes from two sources. One is coming through taxation, the other one through non-tax revenue, you call it, okay? So when you talk about tax revenue, it's mostly coming from GST. There's another tax, state excise, which we could have earned had NLTP not been there, right? For other states, this is a big amount that is earned. For us, mostly it is coming through GST. On the other hand, the non-tax revenue, there are many ways in which other states earn it. Lotteries, collection through power department, water supply, these kind of things. So for Nagaland, despite the weaknesses that are there in the power department as far as collection of revenue, so far, that is one area where we're getting, for the non-tax revenue, the most part, right? So this 12% mostly, by and large, I would say is coming from GST. Let us look at what are the ways in which we also can help to increase this kind of revenue. Why I'm sharing it with the media is because I think we have a role in shaping public opinion and helping to make informed decisions, even in this area. The Honorable Chief Minister, in his budget speech this year earlier, had mentioned some of the ways in which our state government is thinking of to increase this part, increase this 12%. So he has mentioned one, the state will examine possibility of loosening NLTP to the fact that sale of liquor to foreign nationals. I'm just talking about what the government has stated. Two, introduction of sale of lotteries. Okay. Previously, what Nagaland Lotteries has been doing is, it is outsourced to distributors who sell Nagaland Lotteries in other states. But for the first time we are starting it, I think you would have seen, there are now many lotteries. So this is another way in which the government is trying to increase our own revenue. Thirdly, it has mentioned it will start oil exploration. Very contentious issue after negotiations with Assam and the central government, right? So here, from my personal experience, I think the way in which Nagaland or Northeast in general is viewed from Delhi has also changed in recent years. How? Look at the number of ministers that are visiting our state these days. Almost every month there is some union minister visiting, right? And it's beyond Kohima and Dimapur. They're going to the other districts. So along with them, some bureaucrats also come. Their idea of Nagaland is no longer that distant, mysterious, far off, inaccessible. They can see ground reality, what is actually happening, which also means they can see that the funds being pumped in, what is happening to them, right? So the funds coming from Delhi now more and more are tied with certain accountability and responsibility on our part as well. So when we start discussing issues that affect our development, issues in which this kind of revenue can also be increased, many times it is seen that the issues are actually something which we ourselves, we Nagas ourselves, need to get around, rather than for the central government or for an outsider or for Delhi to solve for us, many times. Let's take an example. Being in the GST department, and also personally, I feel that because for our youth, etc., chasing only government jobs may not be the avenue which everybody can do, therefore entrepreneurship needs to be encouraged. So therefore, when people get into entrepreneurship, taxation becomes important. So the GST outreach programs, this kind of thing, we've been doing a lot lately. Now, while doing this, it is also apparent we see that our economy is mostly the services sector, right? We hardly have anything manufacturing or industrialization to speak of. So therefore, when the question comes, how can we increase this industrialization in our state? So when this kind of discussion happens, very soon we get stuck on the issue of land. Because for industrialization to happen, and if we look at other states nearby who have also done it, Northeast states, let's say Meghalaya, for example. So when we talk about possibilities of Nagaland doing that, many times the issue gets stuck with our land issues, right? Another example I'll give you, the rich oil and gas reserves that we are sitting upon. According to a news estimate from the Hindu newspaper, the annual royalty which Nagaland is missing out on comes up to 1,800 odd crore yearly. This amount, why I stated, is it's just a few crores less than that 12% which I talked about, right? So for us, if you unlock one or two of these things, the kind of exponential growth that can happen is enormous. Many times the constitutional protections given to us, 371A, is to protect our religious, social, and customary practices. But we should not be guilty of getting into a position where we are constantly saying, leave us alone, but keep sending us your money. We cannot be saying we want to be comfortable in our ways, but India should keep feeding us. Because if we do this, then it amounts to constantly wanting development without responsibility on our part as well. I have thought a lot before making such a contentious sounding statement, but I say this because I believe our local analysis should drive our economics. Public opinion can be shaped on the need to become more independent economically as a state, which will allow us to be more flexible in the way we spend our funds.
As today we are celebrating this National Press Day under the theme Media in the Era of Artificial Intelligence. With this emergence of artificial intelligence, in fact, we are getting more smarter. And this is the intelligence that makes us equipped with more efficient tools to perform our duties as media persons. But nevertheless, when we talk about this artificial intelligence, it always came to my mind that whatever things that is a tech are artificials, it is the creation. It is the creation only created by a natural one. And even the artificial intelligence is created by the humans. So with the emergence of this artificial intelligence, if we just keep on depending on this artificial intelligence as our assistants to perform our duties, then we make ourselves artificial. And that will be a tragedy for all of us. And that will be a very poor presentation as a media person in front of the public. So even on our part, in filing the report and getting the informations, if we rely only on the artificial intelligence, then many a times, even though it's an intelligence that it has been created, it may not be so accurate. And people will take us in a very poor light. I therefore encourage all our media persons here to be smarter than artificial intelligence and not to rely on the artificial intelligence even if this facility is available. Nothing like have our own natural, nothing like have our own creation, nothing like having our own source of information.